Oh yeah, back at it again. Your boy BC, the Brian Campbell Experience, sliding back in with really my favorite vehicle so far on this channel, the 20 questions interview to get inside people that I already find pretty damn interesting slash weird slash amazing in my space, and hopefully exposing them to you and finding out a little bit more about them. Well, today is the most requested name by far in YouTube comments or Instagram DMs that I've received for the 20Q focus. And that's that dirt hole himself from the state of Georgia. One of my favorite talking heads in combat sports. It's Jed Meshew of MMA Fighting, the ex-lawyer, by the way, which we get into that. You guys wanted Jed, so not only did I provide this interview, but Jed gave really, really thoughtful and deep answers. The longest 20 questions by far that we've had to this point, talking about his career, his transition from the law degree to MMA punditry, his thoughts on the business at large, his personal journey, and oh boy, we get into a lot of big topics in MMA and boxing along the way. Please like and subscribe if this is your type of content, and continue to request the type of guests, people that you would like for this format. But without any further ado, right? It's time for your boy BC and Jed. I mean, I love that guy. The guy brings it. He's not always right, but he's unafraid. He's got some balls. He brings it in this space. Let's get to it now. It's BC. It's Jed coming at you. Enjoy. Yeah, folks, I promised you I would get him. It's here. He's here. It's Jed Meshew the second of MMA Fighting and the state of Georgia. Jed, before we get into this absurd, ridiculous, this is your life 20 questions format, what do you make of the people like going out of their way to be like, hey, BC, F the celebrities, we want that dirt hole?
The people know who you are at your core, BC, and I was flattered to hear that. I love all of you. I say it every time I talk to you, and I am honestly astonished. Like I would have been like, yeah, you should probably talk to other people who are cooler than me, but at their heart, they want to get down into the gutter because that's where you belong and that's where I live.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
perfect.
That is perfect. All right. Well, let's start off. Question number one. We're going to get inside Jed, maybe the first man to do that. You received your doctorate of law from Georgia State in 2015, Jed. You know I'm obsessed with this part. Now you're a cage fighting analyst. What in the damn hell happened?
As I asked myself that a whole lot, BC, particularly on those like nights when we're covering, Apex 97 and it's just two heavyweights who don't matter. It's the main event. I'm
Yeah,
like,
dude, Spivak
where'd my life
Tybura
go?
3 is coming. Okay, it's coming.
Yeah.
Please.
And like that's a perfect example where I'm just like, where did my life go? That I had a promising career in the legal fields, and now I'm doing this with my Saturday nights. Uh, to be honest, it just sort of happened by accident, man. Like I went to law school because I didn't know what else to do. Like I had an undergrad degree in English, and that's useless.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's not getting you shit
But
unless you're
law
gonna
getting a
teach.
law degree is, it might not be getting a doctorate, in medicine, but you don't accidentally stumble into it. There's like a long series of work involved.
Like a little bit, like you take the LSAT, and I've always been a good test taker. And so like I did very well on the LSAT because that's just like my particular set of skills, to quote Liam Neeson.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
then I didn't know what else to do after school. I took a gap year. I moved to Vegas after undergrad. And then I was like, I'll do law school. I like to argue, as you have come to know.
Sure.
BC is like, sure, like why not? This seems fun. Every lawyer I knew told me not to do it. They were all correct, and I was a stubborn, little shit. And so I went to law school. I knew very early in law school I didn't really want to practice, and if I would practice, it would be short. But it's still like before I got into MMA as like a career, I being a lawyer opens a lot of doors. And so it just makes things a lot easier I worked for the tech industry for a long time before this. And it just helped in that way. I kind of did it. I finished it because if I start something, I'll finish it. And then when I got out, I was like, I don't really want to be a lawyer. I got into MMA because I am a fan of MMA in the same way that you got into boxing. Like I am, it's just like you start as a fan. I was a fan way back in the day. Like I've tried to think about it, and I think the first pay-per-view I ever followed live was Hughes Trigg, that fight.
Ooh. Part two
Either
with the
the
slam.
yeah, this the part two. I think that was the first one I followed live. And then it's just like I was a forum guy. I was on Sherdog all the time. I started writing a little bit in college for fun. And then I reached out to the great Kareem Zidane, who
Yes.
I'm sure you know, because he and I wrote for his blog like a million years ago before he became significant. And I got out of law school and I just reached back out and was like, hey, man, I'd I'd like to get back to enjoying writing about this just as a hobby. And at that time, he was working for Bloody Elbow, and he was like, "Hey, man, my blog doesn't exist anymore, but I'm on with at BE. Let me see if I can and get you in." Uh, a couple weeks later, there was an opening at MMAFighting.com. Been here
Damn.
ever since.
Okay, well, I got follow-ups. Was your family upset because you did make a big, I'm assuming, financial commitment toward one direction in your career?
They weren't. My mom was more upset than my dad, but my parents are very supportive in general. My dad was a hippie, and so he's just kind of like the journey's the destination. Whatever you're doing is cool, and has always just been blindly supportive of that. My mom is a much more practical human being, and she was really happy when I went to law school. She was a little upset at my undergrad because English is such like a I don't know, whatever.
Generic. A little
Yeah,
generic.
it's just so broad that there's nothing there. Whereas she is like, she's very practical. And so when I went to law school, she's like, oh, that's basically trade school, which is true. Like it is what it is. Like this is the path, you will be okay. Like you will have a job and be able to support yourself, be
Yeah.
financially viable as a human being. And then when I was like, I'm not going to do this, she was a little more I wouldn't say upset, but she was a little more exasperated because that's been my way for life. So, but at that point, she was used to it. So she's
Oh,
like,
you and I
okay,
are more
just
alike
don't
than I
die.
realized. I also studied a few broads in college. They just weren't
Nice.
interested. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's the way it went. All right.
We're very alike.
Um, you almost touched on this, but question number two, what
I love to
advantages do
touch on
you,
things.
what did you just say?
I love to touch on things.
Yeah, well, that got weird. What advantages do you think being a Juris Doctor, whatever the hell that is, gives you in the world of combat sports talking heads?
Oh, it gives me none. In this world, almost none. Like
Not even
theoretically,
debating? You can debate, right? That's the game.
I mean, sure, except for like that's not really how like I already just knew how to argue because I've been arguing forever because that's just what you do. But like it actually hurt in a lot of ways because the stuff they teach you in law school is applicable in the specific settings of like the business, the legal community. Theoretically, if I covered like if I was more in the weeds on like the antitrust law case that the UFC is going through, that there may be an update like right now as we are recording this. There appears to have been a settlement done. If I was more in the weeds on that, like that would obviously be helpful. And to some extent, that has been certainly covering just pulling a random name out of a hat. John Jones and his many legal things. Like there's like some very small corner cases. It's like, oh yeah, here's how this works. But mostly I actually had to unlearn a lot of stuff from law school because they teach you to argue in a very specific way,
Interesting.
which is and specifically to write in a very specific way because you're writing for legal briefs, which are very buttoned up, extremely dry, not really digestible for the broad public. So like I had to my biggest struggle in law school was learning to write like a lawyer because that is not how I wish to write. And I then learned how to do that and then had to unlearn how to do that for like writing things that people will read in real life.
It's a hell of a career turn. It reminds me of that time that character Mark Wahlberg played in that movie went from like a trash man to kicking field goals for the Eagles, just in reverse, right?
Invincible.
Yeah,
That's right.
invincible. Shout out Vince Papali. Yeah,
Vince
it's a,
Papali.
it's a
Terrible
remarkable
film.
journey you've been on, Jed.
Thanks. I've enjoyed it. And that's, if you can't tell, BC, I'm not a guy with a plan. I just kind of do stuff.
Yeah,
And hopefully it works out. And look at me. I'm here talking to the great Brian Campbell on his very own YouTube channel.
yeah.
Things seem to have worked out.
Thousands of people are waiting for it. It's a big thing. Let's go to question number three. As we record this Vince McMahon Netflix documentary is taking up a lot of the combat sports airspace, at least on X. If similarly, Netflix announced they were doing a tell-all on Dana White with his cooperation. What stretch of the UFC CEO's history would you be most intrigued to sort of hope that you're going to tune in and find out the real truth about?
Oh, that's such a good question. And that was not at all where I was anticipating this going.
You thought I was going to bring
One,
up when Vince shat in that chick's hair, right? Like, which is just absurd. Which
absolutely. That feels like more your speed than this. I haven't watched any of the Vince McMahon doc. I'm going to just because it's like you said, it's so prevalent in the space, frankly, that I'll have to check it out because I want to be part of the moment. For Dana, the problem, like, I don't care about a lot of the Dana stuff in the last 15 years because, like, I was actively living most of that. And so I have my views. Maybe you could change them, maybe you could show me some new things, but I feel pretty confident that I have the right read of the situation. I think the only thing that I would really like is that period of acquisition, right? When he goes to the Fertitas, maybe a little bit before then, when he is just managing, Chuck and Tito, et cetera, and kind of has his toe in the water here, but hasn't become Dana White.
this is like
Because
'01 around there, right?
so they acquired in '01. So like maybe start, a little bit before then, because I certainly have my idea of how this went down and what happened. And frankly, like I'm not even sure we ever could get the true story because of the people involved. I'm just not sure. Like, I don't think Dana is a trustworthy narrator in this instance. And like, I don't know if the Fertitas would be that way, but a deeper look at just Dana pitching this idea to the Fertitas and kind of the initial years when they were really struggling with the UFC before basically the Ultimate Fighter entirely changed the fortune of the company. Getting like background into that, and if there was some way, if there was like secretly a Last Dance style. Actually, we had camera crews on us the whole time, and now here's this unbelievable documentary. I'd be like, that would be something I would be incredibly interested in.
It is pretty crazy when new docs pop up, and then they did have. I mean, obviously, The Last Dance is the perfect example because they had a camera crew in
Just camera crew the
1998
whole time.
following around the Bulls, and I've seen that in a few other documentaries recently where I'm like, damn, they had a camera crew in that moment too. And so I love when failed documentaries go nowhere, and then 20 years later they're like, oh, there's that footage sitting around, let's grab it. So
Yeah,
that's
you gotta find. It's all about timing, BC. And I don't know why they decided when they decided for the Last Dance, but I was captivated watching that. I have issues with it, but I was like, this is awesome. Why did this come out now instead of 20 years ago or
yeah. And why
whatever?
were
If
MJ's eyeballs so red the whole filming of that? I don't
dude,
really understand it.
because when you're a man who's purely driven by spite and hate and you
Yes.
no longer have a focus for it, it will just eat you from the inside. That is
Well,
my
I thought it
strong
was because
speculation.
coffee turns my teeth yellow. Maybe all that whiskey and cigars messed with his eye. I don't know how
No,
medical.
I've been pounding whiskey my whole life. I'm fine.
All right, all right, good to know. All right, let's keep it rolling. How would you best put into words the role that you play or are actively trying to play in MMA media at the moment?
Ooh, in BC coming out here with like
Oh yeah.
zingers. Um, I've actually thought about this a lot, particularly with MMA fighting. Those of you watching, if you didn't know, that's where I'm from. And we've had some things happen in the last few weeks. Several people have left. We're, kind of refitting, retooling, and sort of making a new approach into the space. And so I've kind of thought about that a lot, specifically recently, but also just broadly for my career. I'll give you the pitch I gave to MMA fighting when I was interviewing there, which is I can do a lot of things. I think that what I am best at is this. I think I am best at just being a talking head, frankly, and I never lack for a take, and I can fill airspace, etc. I was a theater kid, so I got all that. But what
Oh,
I
whoa, that is that's an interesting reveal. That explain the theater kid reveal explains a lot.
Yeah, like I feel like it was should be obvious to people who were also theater kids, but like yeah, that kid did a bunch of plays and acting when he was smaller, right up through high school basically. And so like I can do this. Like I have never been shy in front of people or public speaking or anything like that. But for me, what I intentionally try to bring to MMA fighting is a little bit more of a creative energy and aspect. Just I frame it as I like to be the unbuttoned top collar of MMAfighting.com, whereas everybody else is mostly pretty, very professional and doing things by the book, and they're a media agency. I like to be a little more cavalier in that regard and try. I am usually the impetus behind the quote unquote fun things that are happening. We did a fantasy draft recently and that sort of stuff, which is certainly not for everybody. But I like it, and that's just kind of how I try to fill my time, is by doing stuff that I enjoy.
That's it. Hey, it's working for you. Keep at it. You try to be the unbuttoned top button, you end up being the open fly on the pants of MMA fighting, but you catch it at
I'll
the right
take it.
angle,
I
right?
was gonna say I end up being the tank top,
Yeah.
but unbuttoned fly is fine too.
You did have the guts to jump in the pool that time at the vacation house at the end of
Always.
BTL. That was, epic TV. According to your LinkedIn, to keep the Jed background tour going, you started at MMA Fighting as a staff writer in April of 2016. And if you recall, that is weeks after Nate Diaz submitted Conor McGregor at UFC 196 in the midst of what I think was the most exciting era in stretch, the Reebok era in UFC history, everything that led up to the sale to Endeavor, the Conor era, right? All of that. What is one thing you wish you would have known about both journalism and MMA media when you started in 2016 that maybe could have better prepared you or positioned you today?
Oh, dude, I wish I knew so much at that time. He was like, you actually just put the nail on the head right there of my entire life, which is I'm just an absurdly lucky individual. Like, I do not think I am more talented or smarter than people that work in this space. I am just the luckiest SOB that walks the earth. And like, because think of it, like I started in this space at probably the actual best time possible with, certainly this is an opinion, but in my opinion, I fell back asswards into working for the premier website covering the sport at the exact right time.
Seriously,
Like,
seriously, it is.
pure luck. None of this was me spending years trying to get, just like, oh, hey, man, like I'd like to write again. Oh, sure, apply for this. And I got, like, it is so, that is my talent, is being the luckiest bastard that is alive. And even then, like when I started, I came in and was like, I know everything. I am obvious, because what, 2016, I was a young pup. I was fresh out of law school. I thought I was hot shit and the smartest person alive, and I knew nothing. I was dumber than a bag of hammers. And like, I wish I knew generally anything about journalism, because I didn't. Everything I've learned about journalism has been subsequent to. I did not study journalism whatsoever in school, and just genuinely wish I knew like how this industry works, that it is a very, it's a very tight knit community, particularly once you get on the media side. Everybody knows
Sure.
everybody. You can ruffle feathers easily, and that lives forever functionally amongst these people. And by these people, I mean us. It's all of us. Um, I genuinely just wish I knew, like, I think all the time about going back and getting a journalism, like a master's in journalism, strictly to do it, because I feel like I would be more effective at my job
Dude,
and the
Billy
parts of
Madison
my job.
style. You got to live in the dorms. You got to join the fraternity. Like you got to like get in when
Yeah.
you do this.
I mean, we could document it. We'll throw it up on your YouTube channel, BC. It'll be
Perfect
wonderful.
content for this.
This
Yes.
is
Yeah.
great. Jed goes back to school. And so like there was just a ton of stuff. If you're asking for one thing, like if I could just go back and tell myself, it would just be to, and I can't believe I'm saying these words, 'cause I've never once said them in real life, just to be a little more humble about shit,
Yeah.
because I I definitely don't think I made the best. I never make good first impressions, but certainly like with the team, I think it took a while for everyone to warm up to me, because I was being a bit of a prick. Um, because I was 24 or 5 or whatever the hell I was, and thought I knew everything, and I actually knew nothing.
And what is your age now, Jed, if you're willing to share with the people?
What am I? I just turned 36. So,
Oh, I had you. I pegged you younger than that, Jed. You are an old piece of
oh,
shit. Good for
I got
you.
that
Yeah.
baby face.
Yeah. Wow. All right. That, yeah. I mean, dude, I dropped out of college like right at the point mid junior year when you get into like the real serious journalism classes. So even though I had already been a newspaper reporter covering high school sports, I feel also like I missed a key part of that formulative journalism experience that I ultimately got through experience, through being
Yeah,
an editor at ESPN for years. But I felt like a fraud for a long time, feeling like, how did I stumble into this? Like, how am I here already?
I still feel like a fraud, but I used to work with Mark Raimondi, the great Mark Raimondi, who now covers the Atlanta Falcons and is actually my neighbor. Um,
Like
but
same neighborhood like literally lives next to you?
like, literally lives a block away from me.
Damn.
Like a 3 minute walk from me now.
You're gonna be able
And
to read the NWO book before it even comes out. This is gonna be great.
I actually haven't talked to him about getting an advanced copy, but yes, I super could do that. I suspect. But I worked with him at MMA Fighting. He was at MMA Fighting. We went there, and he is a classically trained journalist.
Yeah.
That is what he has done forever, and he's extremely good at it. And I learned a ton from him about literally reporting because I didn't know. I was like, I don't know, you just write some shit and it's fine. I was like, no, that's not. And how to follow up on stories and how to build a network of contacts, et cetera, et cetera. And so, like, I felt like a fraud forever. And frankly, I still kind of feel like a fraud because, a lot of the time, I'm still just not doing the stuff that, real people would do
Because
because I'm
Jed, we're in
writing.
the entertainment business and we understand that. We're not necessarily in the journalism business. That's my take on
Exactly. I think that's honestly a really good take. I I try to be a journalist when it is required and an entertainer the rest of the time. I would say that entertainment is the primacy for me, but at some times you gotta have some sort of journalistic integrity. We're talking about a man who hosts fights, is the MC for various that's right. Boxing luminaries, you just gotta have multiple hats.
Yeah, like when I hosted the Diaz Masvidal press tour and the hat I had
God,
to wear
God,
is the one where they shit on the whole time.
that
So
was
that
the
was great.
funniest. I had so much fun watching
Yeah, it was great.
that. Nate Diaz looking at you and be like, I'm tired of seeing you, man. I like you. You're a good dude. I'm fucking done with seeing you.
You know what the worst part was? Like, obviously that's a job and I want to do the best of the job, but like the promoters behind the scenes, we're pushing for that type of stir it up type of content. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm gonna do this job. I need the money, but yeah, it wasn't easy me looking into Nate's eyes, knowing that I'm the antithesis of who
Yeah.
he wants to be speaking to at that moment. But yeah, whatever.
Especially because you've done it 8 times
Yeah.
already.
Yeah. Good
Dude,
God.
those were so fun. And I'm sure you can't, I don't want you to speak on this and perhaps, hamstring your ability to get those jobs in the future. I had an unbelievable amount of fun watching all those press events and just seeing you flounder, not through a
Yeah.
fault of your own, but because they were not Nate specifically was just not promoting, and you are just trying your hardest. And it was so fun to watch.
And then Jorge
Man, Nate
turned on
just
me in the post fight interview
yeah,
too. I mean, it was just it was
Nate's just
open season.
killing him right now.
Yeah, it took a few months though, but I did get paid, and that check that paid for my summer. I
Hey,
appreciate them, so thank
as
you
long
very
as the
much.
check clears,
Yeah,
that's
that's
all that
the
matters.
name of the game in this business. All right, let's keep it going. Speaking of those glory days we mentioned, and somebody asked me that in my debut live chat thing on my channel yesterday, and I'm like, yeah, the best era in MMA was that Reebok era / Conor era. That Conor era featured the end of the Ronda era. Lesnar was still lingering. It was a different time. Then the Endeavor sale happens, and then we get to where we are now, which is just a different era for UFC, the content filling era. Things are watered down. There's a lot of
It's a
issues.
really good name for it. The
Yeah.
content filling era.
What will it
Contractual
take?
obligations.
Indeed, indeed. What do you think it'll take for the sport of MMA to enter an altogether new boom period in 2025 and beyond? What actually needs to happen for that to be possible?
It's a really tough question. I do, and this is going to sound like hating, and I don't intend it to be. I just think it is true. I think Dana White will be prohibitive to any sort of boom period of that kind, right? Um, I I am of the opinion that Dana White has been exceptionally good at his job for a very long time, and you just have to give the man his flowers. You may not. I don't like a lot of the choices that he has made. I don't like the financial situation of fighters, et cetera, et cetera. he has been undeniably effective at bringing this sport from where it was to where it is, and is one of the most significant figures in the history of the sport, if not the most significant figure. That being said, I think a little bit of it is that he pretty clearly to me doesn't care as much anymore. That's why he is so invested in Power Slap. That is why he is now talking again about doing Zuffa boxing and getting that off the ground. To me, these are the actions of a man who has won the game and frankly just has been doing the same thing for 20 some odd years and wants to try something new, wants to broaden his horizons, do something different. I don't even think that would be the big blocker. It is just that because the company has been so successful in the manner it has been, I think Dana just won't is going to ride this train until the wheels fall off. And for there to be another like big fancy fun boom like 2016 was, that was a perfect confluence of events, right? You had Ronda still relatively recently having come into the UFC because they've opened women's mixed martial arts for her basically. Conor is on the ascent. You have all these wonderful personalities and a company that is trying to grow so big because they can see a light, they can see a sail at the end of the tunnel. Like, I don't think we think enough about like why 2016 happened, but they put all their promotional hoofed into it
Damn right.
because the Fertitas were like, hey man, we're going to sell this for billions of dollars if we can get this to a big spot. And they did. And congratulations on their success. That's not going to happen again. They're already sold. You know, the WME owns them. And I don't think WME is trying to offload them as they are a cornerstone of the TKO holdings, which is obviously an incredibly lucrative thing for them. So without there being a big, we need to inflate this for sale, the company is not going, it may grow and there may be more things, but like, I don't think anything happens until Dana leaves in the same situation. And again, I'm not, you're more a pro wrestling guy than I ever have been, but like, to my understanding, the WWE is in like a way better place now than it has been for a while, in
Yeah.
part because they finally offloaded Vince McMahon and let new blood come through. And outside of the horrible shit Vince McMahon is alleged to have done, I don't know if it's alleged or has been proven, honestly, but like outside of that part of it, just Triple H and the new stewardship is more creative and more interested in doing things to build this promotion in a different way for a new era, basically. Dana was incredibly important and foundational to a previous era of time. I think that either because he is not interested or because, he's older, he's not of this current moment. And so whenever he leaves, and it will be his choice, they will never fire him. If they didn't even pretend to punish him for slapping his wife
They
on
didn't give us
fucking
a press
camera,
release. Yeah, they didn't give us
yeah,
anything on
they
that.
they
Yeah.
didn't do anything about that. They're never going to fire his ass. And then it'll be whenever he chooses to leave. And then when he does, I'll be interested because he won't necessarily leave and be replaced by somebody in the same way that Triple H did in WWE's boom. Maybe he comes in and somebody sucks at it. But the only way that I think Dana is at the helm and we get another boom period like that is if somebody comes in with a Godfather offer in this next TV deal,
Yeah.
aka Netflix, and says, "Here is $20 billion. We wish to exert some creative control over the product, and we have demands for whatever we want, as opposed to filling contractual obligations. Our demands are no longer, you got to give us 40 events a year, you got to give us 40 good events a year, or whatever it may be. And that seems so wildly unlikely. I think the thing we're waiting for is Dana to say, I'm done. I'm going to go spend time with my family, walk off into the sunset, focus on Power Slap, and we just get new blood in and see what they can bring to the company.
Yeah, you need major change, whether that be what you're saying, an institutional change on top, a change in competitiveness with other brands, which doesn't seem to be on the way, right? PFL Tour not lighting us on fire at the moment. Or, maybe it just takes a Tiger Woods like star to come through, a Conor, like, another Conor, which you can't manufacture overnight, but somebody that becomes bigger than the sport that is pulling back all those casual eyes. That could fuel the boom, but you can't predict
I
that.
don't even think that's possible though. I don't think it's possible from a fundamental standpoint of Connor is a once in a lifetime star
Yes.
in that everything worked out so well for him. Like, yes, he had the natural charisma and the it factor to become a star, but he rolled sevens forever, like just 20 straight in a row. Everything broke right for him. And up to and including the moment that he iced Jose Aldo in 13 seconds, like everything, he just had the hottest hand at the dice table. And that is such a confluence of events that I don't think is possible, particularly given, we talked about my great timing, his good timing. Because if he comes along 5 years later and they've already sold out for, less than 4 billion or whatever it is, but they've already sold for a couple of billion, I don't think that the UFC is not interested in having Conor McGregor's anymore. They are actively not interested in the one they have.
That's a good
They
point.
have a Conor McGregor at home, and they're not even using
Wait,
him
wait, who
because
is
they are
that? Who is that
Conor
Conor McGregor?
McGregor.
Oh, you mean the one they had? Yeah, we got
The
that at
Conor
home.
McGregor they
Yeah.
have. They won't even let him fight because they're like so transparently waiting to deploy him next year for when
Well,
they
he could
to
have fought Chandler, dude. He did say no toe, no
no,
go. He
he
did.
could have. He could have for sure. And like, but then they still would have had one. To me, it's pretty obvious that they're like, they know they only have 2 fights left with them. They're trying to be very strategic. And they've got this TV deal coming up. They want to deploy him during the negotiation period as a look
Sure.
what we can do, et cetera, et cetera. And like, I don't, the fact that they are so disinterested in like rolling him out there immediately to like, hey, let's sell 1.5 million pay-per-views because that's what Connor's floor is basically, it to me is a sign that they don't really care about a star ever getting to that. And in some ways, they don't want a star to get to that level because it's just harder to deal with somebody like that. Like
That's a
the
good take.
brand is the star, and Connor is the one guy who has superseded that. And I am not sure that they are interested in even allowing someone to be that big
Yeah,
again.
the rules would have to change, maybe through a potential new TV deal that you sort of teased, or multiple TV deals that changes that equation of control. We got to keep flowing because I got too many great questions to ask you. So you bill yourself as Jed Meshew the second, which means you will be forever trying to live up to the reputation and accolades of your namesake. So who the hell is Jed Meshew number one? And what would you say is the most important value you learned from this gentleman that you're trying to instill in your life today?
Man, you were just cutting to the quick, buddy.
Oh yeah.
Like
I mean,
this
question
really
20
is
is
the
show
this
me your
is
hog. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna get there. All right.
hey, I like it. You're whining me, but wine dine me, then 69 me. It's great.
Oh
Um
God.
I don't know what kind of content you wanted on this channel,
Yeah,
BC, but
well,
this is
whatever
what
it
you're
takes.
getting.
Whatever it takes.
Uh um Jed Meshew the first is my father, obviously. A fun story about how I was named. My mother had no idea that I was going to be named this. The lady who gave birth to me.
Yeah, that one.
Um, I was born August 8th, 1988, and I weighed 8 pounds and 8 ounces. It's a
Wait, is
lot of
that
eights.
88, 8
Eight, eight,
pounds, eight
88, 8 pounds,
ounces?
8 ounces.
Good
Uh-huh.
Lord. What is this confluence of like,
I'm the luckiest bastard that's ever lived.
damn.
Keep trying to tell you. And so because of that, there was me and one other person in like the city were born, with these specs. And so there was like one of those, at the bottom of the news ticker local stories about like, and today in local news, a young woman gave birth to a 8 pound, 8 ounce baby boy on 8/8/88. And my mom, who was recovering from having given birth, was not there to do the thing. And so it was like my dad holding me, be like, hey, how's it going? What's his name? And they had not agreed on a name yet. And so he just fired out Jed Meshew the
Oh
second.
God. Come on, Jed
And
the first.
there
Have
we
a
were.
plan. Good Lord.
I maintain that it was an like pretty clearly all a plan on his part and a wonderful work. But so that's my father. And my father is the best person I know. Other than maybe my mother. I don't know. A 1B. Um, if I'm he is he is a renaissance man of all time. We could do a whole series on the life he has lived because it's weird and full of a lot of interest. But I would say the thing I've learned the most from him and from my mother, uh, I want to say like, hard work, but that's not actually true. They never taught me hard work. They worked really hard and it's like never instilled that work ethic in me. What they did instill in me is loyalty and just like being a good person to the people around you. And to me, that has always been like the thing that it's my guiding star. And so like people don't like me. A lot of people, BC, will hate that you've had me on this program.
Of course, yeah.
And
That's why I did
to
it.
you,
Yeah.
I say, I get it. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Totally fine with me. But I think that if you talk to anybody who knows me, anybody who's worked with me, they will all kind of come back to the same thing of that is that's a dude who will lay over the wire for you. Like if
Nice.
when push comes to shove, that is who I would like to be. Um, and I think that I mostly live up to that. Of I may be annoying, 100%, but I'll have your back whenever it is required.
I
So
never knew about the loyalty and the number 8. You're always offering me 8 balls on the road, and I'm like, nah, dude. I thought you just had a social problem, but now it just all lines up there.
it's not a
That
problem.
By the way, that brings us to question number 8. There's a reason why I so often accept the invite from either you or Mike Heck to join MMA Fightings Between the Links or Below the Links or Beneath the Belt with Brendan Shaw, whatever we're calling it these days. Um, I've
Beneath the
long
belt.
I've long dubbed it around the horn of MMA. So, what do you think is the secret sauce behind why that show is so good, so underrated, and for my money, the show which most deserves a shot at receiving a push in the latest post-aerial era?
So I do think like so when this is Mike's show entirely, and Mike did have it as an around the horn basic MMA thing prior to coming to MMA fighting, where there were like 4 panelists, and that also just becomes hard to get that many people to do stuff, et cetera, et cetera. I just think I think it works because we have a good dynamic. Like I'm not on every week, but at this point I am on most weeks. And then because we can get people like you or Luke Thomas or Drake Riggs or whoever it is that comes on. And once you've started to build this, one, the format is just fun. It is fun to engage in friendly debate with anyone is always like that is always a thing that is to me an enjoyable thing. And I think Mike does an unbelievable job at leading it because I have hosted a couple times and it's so much harder than it looks. You guys have no idea. And then the rest of it is, you get you and me just talking dirtbag stuff on there or
Yes.
whatever. And it's a good time because as long as the people who come on the show are fun, interesting people, and Mike does an unbelievable job of getting those people to come on, the show works. And like we're obviously continuing that forward. I would like it to get a little bit bigger. I would love to do a true around the horn style four person duel in that situation, and maybe we will. Like there's a lot of things in the hopper for us. Maybe we can make that happen. Not every time, but a couple of times and have some
I'd like
fun.
to see
Get
you
you
guys
on.
in a New York studio. I mean, it doesn't work. You guys both live in the South, but that's just me speaking right there.
I would love to see us in a studio. And shout out next week, I am heading to Mike Heck's home and we're doing our UFC 307 watch party
Not bad.
at Casa de Mike Heck. So,
The new
we'll
back
just
room that he's been working on. Yeah, shout out to good
that's
old South Carolina or New Hampshire's own / South Carolina Mike Heck. I don't recognize his Massachusetts upbringing apparently. Let's keep it rolling. You mentioned Luke Thomas. You started working with that man in MMA fighting long before I ever did. So, what is the most Luke Thomas story about Luke Thomas that best explains Luke Thomas that you're willing to share with me?
ooh, the most Luke Thomas story about Luke Thomas. Um, I'm trying to think. Oh, here's a fun one. I don't know if this just explains him, but I think of this story more often than I should, frankly. And this is the first time I ever met anyone at MMA fighting in person. That November of 2016, I just like literally the weekend or the week before whatever UFC Conor became champ was. Um,
205.
and okay, sure, 205. That was, I don't know if you recall, that was also the week of the 2016 presidential election, was like that Tuesday or whatever.
Yeah, the
Um,
big news was Trump would be at MSG. That was the
mhm.
big rumor.
And also because this was such a monumental event for thing, Vox Media flew all of the MMA fighting people from all around the country and the world to New York to do a team meetup. It's the only one we've ever done like in person. But they're like, hey, um, So we flew, got hotel, stayed up there, and then obviously the people who live in the area, they traveled. So we all get up there, and we have some meetings, etc. We go out for dinner um, one night, and we're sitting there. And again, this is the first time I've really met these people. I've worked with them for a while, but not even that long. I'm certainly the newest person there by a great margin. And Luke and I are talking about how he's actually from Georgia, etc. And that stuff. And uh, I don't know. I can't remember the context of what it was, but we're sitting around this dinner table and somebody asked something and I was like, "Oh, it's over yonder." And I said the word yonder and Luke almost fell out of his chair. I'm like, "Yonder? What the fuck is yonder? You country motherfucker." And then just ripped on me for 5 minutes for using the word yonder. And now, because I use yonder kind of a lot. Like, I don't know, I'm from the South. Like I've
Dude,
been
he'll drop a y'all on you, but out of nowhere sometimes, and you're like,
y'all
whoa.
is y'all is a perfectly good contraction. I'll stand by y'all. I do recognize that yonder is some like Shakespearean nonsense or whatever. Like, oh, it's over yonder. And Luke spent like 5 full minutes just laying into me for the use of yonder. I was like, that was my first real interaction with Luke. And literally every time I use the word yonder, I think of it.
That's a great story right there. To keep it moving here, I have no
You
idea
country
about
motherfucker? Yonder?
I
The
have no
fuck?
idea about what type of music you get turned up to, but I'm kind of on the jam band side. Luke is kind of on the death metal, I come blood sign side of the street, whatever side that is. What is the singular best concert you've ever attended?
Oh, this is the easy one. So I've been to a lot of concerts that were pretty fun. And my music taste, for those interested, pretty wide. I don't get into thrash metal or Luke's a bridge too far. Maybe
Yeah.
there's some metal that I'm at least like casually interested in. Similar, honestly, with jam bands. Like I like some Fish, I like some Grateful Dead, but it's not a thing. But like pretty broad taste. But I think this will forever be my favorite concert I've ever been to. Um, from the South, from the state of Georgia. And in high school, before he got big, before he blew up, I don't ask me why I like knew this, but like I was kind of clued into regional rap scene, like outside of like, ooh, these guys are on, MTV and TRL and stuff. And Young Jeezy's Thug Motivation 101 had just come out. And I loved that album so much that I still could probably rap it word for word, front to back. And because I liked like some Jeezy mixtapes that I found before then. And so this is right before he really blew up. And he did a concert at Savannah State University in their gymnasium. It was like their homecoming or
Yeah, but
something.
dude, rap concerts suck. Everybody knows that. They're not real concerts. It's just like a
They're not,
backtrack and
they look, I mean, in general, it this wasn't like a great concert, but it was an incredible experience because I got to see one, Jeezy was, I'm not even kidding, 3 hours late to his own goddamn
right, Axl
show.
Rose
And
style. Yeah.
in what is basically like a big high school gym show. Um, and it's me and a buddy of mine from high school and a bunch of kids who go to Savannah State. And I am the only white person at all, and everyone's very accommodating to me. It was like, because I wore polos, and it's not like I was trying to blend. It was just being me at this concert that I liked, and everyone was super chill and cool. And we're hanging out, and we're talking and watching a couple of acts go before, and then waiting forever. And Young Jeezy comes on and does 20 minutes of Thug Motivation, and a couple of his like underground songs, and just throws money into the crowd. That is maybe 300 people in this crowd, and it's the most fun I've ever had. It was very, very silly. It wasn't like an
Interesting
unbelievable
answer.
concert, but it was incredibly fun to just kind of hang out with a bunch of people, basically, and do like just a small thing and be like, I saw Young Jeezy before with a group of maybe 400
Did you
other
pocket
people.
any of the cash?
No, I wasn't close enough to the front because Cash doesn't like throw far, but
Yeah.
it's just like a stack. It was basically like being in a strip club, except for everyone was fully clothed, and he and his people just threw stacks of like $1 bills into the crowd. It was insanely fun to me, and I will cherish that memory forever.
But
That's
the,
easily my favorite
I
concert.
didn't
If you're
think you
like
were going that lane, but
the
do you?
best concert I've ever been to, that was my favorite. The best one I've ever been to is probably I went to a Green Day concert in high school, and they put like they were Green Day, so they were massive, and they put on a very good live show. But it's just not the same. It's not as
Not the
fun.
same. Let's keep it going. Question 11. If Conor McGregor never walked away from MMA following that 205 win over Eddie Alvarez, we talk about this scenario a lot. And then he enters into life-changing money, the Floyd fight, selling the whiskey brand for 600 million. The last 8 years of his career are going to look significantly different. How long do you think he could have kept up being Conor? The Conor that
Um,
beat Eddie, the Conor that beat Aldo. Were we going to hit a wall soon enough? Or do you look back and go, man, if that guy stayed to the craft, he could be GSP and Anderson Silva?
no, I don't think it was ever possible. I think he probably at some level knew that, and he's managed his career unbelievably well. One, I think if he stayed the course, he would already be retired, not like sort of retired right now. Two, this question is different depending on where you think he goes. I think at lightweight he had no chance of being a long-term viable champion. Aside from the fact that Habib was coming and was there, it just maybe he beats RDA, which was, obviously a fight that had been talked
Possible.
about.
Yep.
You could convince me he can beat RDA. You could convince me that he would have beaten Tony Ferguson, who was like an interim champion right around the time of Connor's stuff. So I guess he probably would have gotten first crack. You convinced me he could beat Tony, though that version of Tony, I am far less convinced he beats.
Well, Habib would have gotten
But
the first craft because Habib got passed over for Conor at 205, had a fight on the undercard and complained the whole time about it.
yeah, but then Habib was hurt for a while. So like, maybe Habib just doesn't because Habib has had that knee injury that kept him out for like
Sure.
18 months or whatever. Um, Habib would have always killed him. I loved that fight. I thought that fight would be the biggest fight in MMA history. It was, for all the things, but I was pretty sure how that fight would go. And it absolutely went that way. Habib was always there to foil him. And so he never could have been that long reigning at lightweight. To me, the question has always been how long could he have kept it up at featherweight? Because featherweight, I think there was a lot bigger of an opportunity for
I don't
him.
think he'd make the weight anymore. I think
Is
that was
obviously a hugely difficult weight cut for him, but I believe he could have made the weight. I think once he won the lightweight belt, he shouldn't. There's no reason to do that. But if he sticks around, he doesn't do the boxing thing and he loses to Habib, well, there's no point in staying at lightweight because he's not going to do it.
oh, he's
Maybe
going to
he could,
welterweight.
I'd
He's
say
going
maybe
right
he
to
could
welter.
try the welterweight thing, but that's going to go even worse for him than lightweight's going to go,
Yes, yes,
frankly.
it will. Yes, it would have. Yes.
So the real career choice is like, okay, maybe we just, all right, let's commit, let's cut back the weight and go. And again, I think I know he has a win over Max Holloway. That was a very different version of Max Holloway. I think the version of Max who won the belt and we have since become very accustomed to just hands Connor his own ass. And so I think he played his career exactly perfectly, like exactly perfectly. And some of it was intentional and some of it is luck because when he was going to fight RDA, I would have picked RDA. You could convince me Habib could, or I mean, Connor could have won that. Absolutely. But RDA is stylistically a tougher matchup for him than Eddie. And when he was fighting Eddie, like we did live shows in New York when we were all there. And I was like, I was so calm. I was like, he's going to kill Eddie. Eddie has no chance in this fight. And people are like, no, Eddie's got a great background in wrestling. I was like, there is no, like you find the video and be like, Eddie has no chance. Like Eddie is going to get annihilated because Connor is a substantially better striker. And yeah, Eddie can wrestle, but he's not like great at it. He just can do it. Eddie is a jack of all trades who's going to get bagged up. And it's exactly what happened. And so, like, his timing on everything was so good, including I'm going to step away from the sport because, like, I just don't think he could have kept this run up.
No, he was burnt out physically. I mean, those three fights alone in 2016 were nuts. He would have
It's a
needed
hell of
time
a year.
off. I think he ends up fighting Woodley for the belt at welterweight and then loses. And then you're right. I think he'd be out by now. He would have had too many
That's
losses. He would have.
I assume he loses to Tyron Woodley. That is still a fight you could convince me he could win, not because Connor is great, but because Woodley sometimes just won't fight people. And so like he'll
Well, he
just
fought
not do
Lawler in
anything.
Atlanta that time at 201 pretty well. All
He
right.
did. I was there, and that was brutal. But like he also spent 50 minutes or whatever with Stephen Thompson, and only like if he had fought the way he fought in the rounds he won by a million miles, he would have only had to fight him once. But he also just spent like a lot of the fight doing nothing. So maybe he does nothing and Connor steals a victory. I don't think so, but like could have happened.
I wanted him on commentary. I always wanted him to like retire early and commit to commentary and be that the role that DC is now. A guy, yes, you can get stylistic breakdowns from DC, but you're really just there for his character, his
Vibes.
emotion. I think Connor would have been great. I don't think he has the right like commitment to that. Like he's bigger than that, but I think he would have been interesting. But we got to keep flowing unless you're going to stay here 2 hours. We've all had a few bad takes, and Jed, I had a really bad take that time on Between the Links when I said that that DDP had zero chance to beat Robert Whitaker and no paths to victory, and you laughed and said, "Watch what's going to happen." Well, you've had bad takes too. In fact,
Oh,
I
I've had a lot
searched
of
your
them.
Twitter account and I found July 15th, 2015, when you said, LOL at Holly Holm being anything other than fodder for Ronda. Rousey snaps that arm
Oh,
off, same as the rest of them.
dude,
So,
I didn't even realize I said that.
well, you did. It's still
Ouch.
out there. You got
Cold
to be like
takes
everybody else,
exposed.
erase your old racist tweets. I mean, come on. In hindsight, what is this
Jesus.
single worst take you've had? Because I eat
Holy
crow
shit.
on DDP Whitaker.
That might be the worst take I've ever had. Holy hell. I had no idea that I did that. Oh, that is bad. That is a bad one.
Pretty bad, yeah.
Uh, Legitimately, that honestly, it's certainly the worst I can think of. I'll give you one other example, but before I give you one, because you have just excoriated me in front of your millions of fans, and I got to get some back. I'd also like to mention, not that long ago, in fact, just like a month and a half ago, you were like, Bilal Muhammad is not one of the 20 best pound for pound fighters in the world. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. He's obviously extremely good.
That was the entertainment side of me coming out, apparently.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
Bilal's not remotely one of the 20 best umpires. So I was like, I think you're insane, BC. So I had to get this little get back, just trying to
True. I
save
I
face a little for myself.
I earned
The
it.
other one, I think that home take, which I must have just mentally blocked out. That probably is my worst actual one. The most notable one that I've ever had, and you could also find a clip of this on my Twitter. Um, so Valentina Shevchenko, I'm a big supporter, have been for a long time. When she was fighting Alexa Grasso the first time, I was like, there's no way she loses. She is more physical than Grasso. She could just take her down at will and lay on her, like we saw in the most recent fight. She's a better striker. So like, there's just no pat. Alexa Grasso isn't even a big puncher, and she's never submitted anyone. There's not
No.
really a path to victory for Alexa Grasso
Dude,
here.
Pena Nunes won. Same thing happened to me, man, you know? At
I
least there's
I
an
picked
excuse in that fight, right?
I picked Pena in that one, and so is one of my great takes. But on the Shevchenko Grasso one, I very notably put my entire betting bankroll on Valentina
I
Shevchenko. We're
remember that. Yes.
talking a substantial amount of money, particularly from someone in this industry who's not, like raking in the millions. And I was on our live watch party for this, and you can physically watch the video of my heart falling out of my chest
Yes.
as it is on Twitter of me sitting there and being like, okay, like because we were cruising. Like Grasso was more competitive. It was like we were well on our way to winning. And then Shevchenko does the stupid ass spin and Grasso's on her back. And you can see me coping. Like, it's not under the chin. It's not under the chin. She's just got to survive. She's going to make it out of this round. It's not under the chin. And then that's how
And
we
because
all
she
know how
doesn't
it
make
ended.
mistakes like that. Like, remember when Weidman made that big mistake and Rockhold beat him? I'm like, I can understand that. Sonnen's trying that spinny shit on Anderson in the rematch and he gets sunned. I can
It's always
understand that.
spinning shit.
This was Val. I mean, come on. But yeah, that was a bad take. You ate the crow. Let's keep it rolling. Number 13. What's the greatest singular fast food item in the world today that you have moments where you're like, F it, I'm going after it?
Ooh, I got to go with my heart. I got to go with my heart. There are a lot of great contenders here, BC. I don't want, no disrespect to a
Because you're
Chick-fil-A
in the
chicken
South, so you
sando.
have much more creative burger chains and really gross fast food than I even have up here in the north, you know?
I mean, there's a lot of it out there. And look, I respect all of your games. I don't want any of you to feel left out. I know BC's a beef and cheddar, Arby's kind of
Oh
guy.
yeah.
That,
Oh
that
yeah.
feels like that's your sweet spot. I gotta be me, and I believe the best fast food item of all time, and honestly, maybe one of America's greatest contributions to the global stage
Wow.
is a sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddle from McDonald's.
Oh
Just,
yeah,
just
dude, you know
the
what?
the perfect fast food breakfast item.
It is next level. It is one of the worst things for you physically, obviously, right?
Oh, you should never eat more than one of them a year.
Okay, one of my lowest moments as an adult, Jed, would be one of them, right? Would be 2002 and 3 when, to avoid having to move back in with my parents, I decided to take on a second job so I can pay rent, which was delivering newspapers at 3 a.m. every day, which is just, in the winter, it's just it's a great job.
It's a
Believe me.
great
That's the
job.
worst thing that I could ever have done to myself. I would come home at 6 a.m. a lot of mornings and pull out the giant orange bong and go to the drive-through and get two of those
Oh,
along with that complete breakfast thing they offer.
how did you do anything for the rest of the day?
I didn't. That's the thing. I'd go to my day job like in the late afternoon, just stroll in. I was a newspaper editor of a weekly paper. I was a complete degenerate. And I would eat that. My heart would be like palpitating and I'd pass out on the couch
Dude,
watching like TRL or something. Like that was my life. You know what I mean? In hindsight. Damn.
look,
Right.
those, I mean, again, don't eat them. They're just bad for you, but they are if I'm out on the road like early in the morning because I'm traveling somewhere or I've more often than I should, I'm like I see the arches, I'm like, that's what's up. Right,
Dude,
let's
that
do
as
it.
Luke says about BBLs, I'll say this about fast food. That item might be the apex predator. It really might be the Randy Orton of fast food items. It really is.
I
It's tremendous. Great pick. Great pick. Okay, let's keep it rolling. Let me set the stage for you. The night was April 13th, 2019, Atlanta, State Farm Arena, UFC 236, Holloway, Poirier 2. Unknowingly, you and I were both cage side that night to witness maybe the greatest main co-main action combo in modern UFC history. Since I'm occasionally maligned for my blind love affair of all things Adesanya versus Gastelum, can you one more time regale me with what it was like to be cage side for one of the greatest all-time 5-round fights we've ever seen?
So we'll start with I think it's undeniably the best 1-2 punch in UFC history. Like these were the literal two fights of the year. Was 1A and 1 and 2 in the fights of the year for that year. It is, I assume, will just be the greatest event I will ever attend live. Hopefully not. Like if I ever top that, that would be sick. But like just going into this, and I've told this story a couple of times on various programs. Uh, I have never felt that way again. Like I've never felt that way before nor since. And I can't, I wasn't at Connor Nate, 2 or whatever. Like I wasn't physically present for some of these massive fights. And I don't rate Izzy Gastelum as the greatest fight of all time, but it being there was so transformative to how I experience combat because it is so different to be cage side, to be in the arena for fights in general. And with a fight like that, it really came through because it was so insane the way it built and became this thing. And then the epic fifth round and before it with Izzy saying, I'm willing to die in here.
Yeah.
And we are all just watching this thing unfold.
This was
And
me
for those
cage
who
side.
like I'm
Yes.
I'm just sitting here like this the whole time, like what is happening? And for those who kind of don't know, like, there's a little bit of a gap. And if you're in the arena, nothing is happening in that because if you're at home watching, the broadcast is filling that space with other stuff. But we're all sitting there. And I distinctly remember two very vivid moments. One, after the fight is over on press row, just kind of looking at the shell shocked look on everybody's faces of having been 5 feet from that fight happening and sort of just being there and this huge adrenaline dump from me and I assume from everyone else of like I can't move. Like I can't do anything
I
because
don't need
of
another
what
fight, right? I don't
no,
need the
yeah,
main
like
event. Like,
my
give me the
emotions
cigarette.
were gone. I needed a cigarette. It's exactly that. And sitting there while we're waiting for this other stuff to unfold and then realizing there's something else happening and it's a big fight. And I remember watching Max and Dustin too and being there and having the weirdest disconnect in my brain of being like, holy shit, this fight is incredible. The story that is being told between these two guys, the competitive nature is unbelievable. And at the same time, there is nothing going on in here because I can't. It is all left my body from the Izzy fight that I am not able to emotionally connect with what is objectively and clearly in my mind's eye an unbelievable fight happening. And then getting backstage to do like this was back before they did like individual little scrums basically, where it's just kind of a bigger venue backstage, and getting back there and just kind of looking around at everybody else, and we're all still just like, holy shit, what did we just witness? What the fuck just happened that we were here for? And again, if I ever top that, like I have been to one sporting event in my life that I would say is better than that, and that was the UGA Ohio State semifinal game 2 years ago. I was in
Yeah,
the
who's
building
gonna
for
forget
that.
that? Oh, you mean college football playoffs?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's
uh,
legit. That's absolutely
the
legit. Yeah.
the one where Ohio State missed a field goal literally at the stroke of midnight. Uh, I went to UGA, big UGA fan. Nothing there is not a sporting experience I will have that will ever top being there for that. But this is the only thing remotely in the neighborhood is being
Thank you for
there
saying
for
that.
Izzy Gastelum and then getting Poirier Max Holloway and feeling bad that I didn't even appreciate it enough because
I
I
felt the
physically
same way.
couldn't.
Dude,
Was
Max
like, I
was
should
willing to
like this
take
more than I am.
Max was willing to go through hell in that fight and stand in and trade with Poirier. And I remember just thinking, like, the crowd isn't even reacting how they should because we're all just like,
Everyone was just done.
what a night, man. What a
It was
night.
an unbelievable. Like I am so of the many things I'm thankful for in this industry, being present for that one is right near the top.
I thank Izzy and Gastelum every time I've interviewed them since. I just thank them for putting out that effort. I mean, and that's what the shock value was. We didn't think Izzy was gonna be forced to have to fight that way, or we didn't know if he could fight that way. And I mean, seeing his dismembered face at the presser afterwards, I'll never forget that. Just thinking,
Dude,
damn, this is a tough ass sport.
just
Damn.
busted up. Like, yeah, that was a banger.
Too bad
one
Kelvin
of, one of the
chopped.
five best fights of all time.
No doubt, no doubt. Keep it rolling here. Speaking of great fights, if John versus Francis and Jones versus Aspinall are off the table, and they might actually be. What's the next great super fight to be made in the sport of MMA? And I mean the kind that
Oh.
truly wakes up the mainstream casual audience and where people that don't watch MMA go, "Oh, dude, I heard about that fight." What's that next one?
Ooh. So I think the answer here, and I don't like it because personally I still feel a little weird. Alex Pereira is the closest guy to breaking the barrier between us and the mainstream. I don't think he's even that close realistically, but I think he's the closest because he has been a two division champion. He's very popular, getting a ton of support. He's had a monster year. If he goes out here and he dusts up Khalil Roundtree like most are expecting him to do, though not a given, but most are expecting, and he gets the opportunity to fight Tom Aspinall for the heavyweight belt, which I think is very, very possible, right? Like, I believe Magomedov Ankalaev should get a title shot. I don't think that's by any means guaranteed. And particularly if John, beats Stipe and retires, the UFC, Aspinall is their champion. They can do Cyril Gane. They could, or I guess Gane and Volkov is getting rebooked. So they can do Aspinall versus the winner of that, or maybe Jailton Almeida gets a win. But those aren't moving the needle in a way that you probably want to as a promotion for your new heavyweight shiny champion that you are now full thrust behind. Whereas doing, hey, here's him taking on a guy with the chance, the first ever chance to fight
Yes,
for three belts
it
and do
matters.
that. And
It
if
really
the
matters.
UFC gets to promote this guy has the opportunity to be the first three division champion, they will get behind that in a major way and in a way that will break break free of the
God,
noise.
imagine if that
Uh,
opponent was Jones and not Aspinall.
well,
Good Lord. Good
That's
Lord.
the thing. There is a world where they could even make that happen without Aspinall. I think it would be a tough scene for us to be like, if Jones says, I'm not going to retire, but I want to fight Alex Pereira. Obviously, that's the biggest fight that can be made. And I do think the business would overtake the meritocracy, such as it were for Aspinall, which would be tough. But like that would 100%. Jones versus Pereira for the heavyweight belt, no doubt about it, is one of the biggest pay-per-views the company has ever done, much less can make now. The only maybe honorable mention I'll throw out, and this isn't near, and so I don't think it's likely. I think Ilya Taporia is on the verge of breaking out into a big star. He is a big star already, particularly globally, but he's not so far here because he just won the belt. But if he goes out here and he dusts, like if he cleans up Max Holloway, who is a star who people know in a big event, and that's a huge, tall task. I am by no means saying that's happening. But if he does, his star will be very high. And if he can do that and maybe get one more win and Islam Makhachev defends against Arman Sarukian and you do Makhachev Topuria, I don't love that like most of Makhachev's lightweight title reign will just be him fighting featherweights, frankly. But that fight, like at the end of next year or the beginning of 2026, that might break through to be a super event in
Those
that
are great
same
answers.
kind of way.
Great answers. I mean, you could have said Connor Nate 3 and it probably still would have been the right answer, but
Well,
those
that
are
is
way
also
better.
true, but
Yeah,
I'm
but
just
that's a
not certain
rebrand.
that's even going to happen.
All right, this is probably my favorite question I concocted for you. Imagine a world where MMA fighting pitches a new series built around you called Jerking Off with Jed. It's a working title, believe me. Okay, all right. In which you are
A lot
provided
of better name, a lot of better titles out there than that.
in which you're provided a cargo van. You know, we used to call them child muster vans, the ones with the curtains
Yes.
inside, a camera crew, an ounce of hydroponic, and a keg of American lager, and tasked with driving cross country from Atlanta to Vegas for UFC 310. All expenses are paid by Vox. The company will film the entire journey as a docu series, and you have a chance to become, the new face of MMA media. You get to pick along with you one active MMA fighter, one MMA journalist, and one MMA friendly celebrity to join you on this journey, which will be shown over multiple parts. Who are you picking? Who is jerking off with Jed? That's the real
So,
question.
I mean, we're not using that title. Let's start right there. Jed Talks. We could use Jed Talks.
That's
Great
not going to work.
title.
It's not going to hit with that same,
Um, we're just not using jerking off with Jed. That is a bad one.
Vox will be
Uh,
fine with it.
so
Come on. Yeah, he'll be
so
fine with it.
one fighter, one journalist, and one celebrity who is tangentially attached
Yes.
to MMA in some
Yes.
capacity. Well, we're just gonna have ourselves the time, aren't we? There are several fighters that I could pick for the bit because I've said so many disparaging remarks about them. Locking them in a van and a cross country trip with me would be quite funny. But let's start with the journo because I don't think I can take you. You have, a family and stuff to
Yeah,
do,
I've
and you're
got a
not
reputation to
say
protect,
you
apparently.
don't have
Yeah.
that, but you have, obligations. So the journalist has got to be somebody who I can just Shanghai for 3 weeks or whatever this is gonna be to do it. Um, what journo would be a good one? Who's bringing good vibes? I like again. I would love to bring Mike Heck with me, but Mike Heck has a kid and a wife and a family,
Yeah, you
and
need
most
somebody
people
younger on the edge a little bit, like, a little get somebody gets loose in turn 4. Maybe an Oscar Willis, seriously.
So I was actually thinking Oscar or and this doesn't really count as a journal, but I kind of want to just slide Bane Davis in there. Give me Ben the Bane, because he's probably not like a celebrity, but like he's in the MMA bubble. So let's do Ben Davis. Ben Davis feels like one great vibes,
Pretty damn good
and
vibes, yeah.
I think we could make something happen there. So let's go with Ben Davis for as riding shotgun on this journey with me. Fighter and celebrity. What fighter is fighter? I think is going to be the hardest one, right? Because I just like I don't want to spend that much time with most of these people. I love watching them compete, but most of them aren't good hangs, and I'd like a good hang for this, and somebody who can be good, like on camera for doing the stuff open. I'm pulling up a list of fighters and just
Max.
kind of
Max
taking.
Holloway's in this. Come on.
Yeah, but Max has to train. Max got to fight Ilya, so
That's it. Yeah. All
we can't
right.
be
All right.
taking Max away from that. He got his hands full. Um, you know what? Let's go with just a good dude. Let's go Corey Sandhagen. Like
Ooh,
Corey
that's
Sandhagen's got great
interesting.
vibes.
I don't know if
Corey,
he'll party with you though, will he?
I mean, we're stuck in a van for however long this is going to be.
Okay.
We'll party. The party will happen. So Corey Sandhagen feels like just a good enough vibes, dude. And then MMA adjacent celebrity. This is where I'm weak because like I don't know that many people. Oh, what's Tom
Theo
Arnold
Vaughn?
doing?
Who?
No, Tom Arnold. Married with children. Tom
Oh,
Arnold.
Tom Arnold.
He's a
Yes.
BJJ black belt. Let's get him in for the dad vibes to this whole thing.
By the way, he's doing all of the drugs in the back of the van, so no one else
Yeah,
has to worry. Okay.
Tom Arnold, just he's our fatherly figure in the back of the van hanging out, and he's a BJJ black belt, so it's cool.
Incredible. We're winding down here. This is the longest 20 questions we've ever had, Jed. You're setting a new record. This is great.
I love
Uh,
that.
when it comes to mental health and personal growth, and you can mail this question in or you can get real with us. What's the biggest thing you struggle with right now on a day-to-day basis?
Mental health and personal growth. Um, well, let's get real. I have previously dealt with depression, so like back in law school, I saw a therapist and did a bunch of stuff, um, and that it's not fun, but you work your way through it, and it's but I'm mostly, and I don't really have those issues anymore because life changes, you build better tools. So currently, my mental health is like I don't really have a lot of struggles with keeping my mental health. I've just found a way to keep everything in a perspective that I'm comfortable with. As far as personal growth, that is a lot more of a struggle because BC, you're old, like I'm old.
I'm old.
It's
Yeah, I'm
just as
real old.
hard to be an old person and like improve. Like you're very set in your ways of stuff, and like particularly at work long hours, do a lot of work. And I, honest to God, I don't know how you people do it with families and like lives because I do not have that. And it is still difficult for me with an abundance of time outside of work to be like, hey, I'm going to eat a little bit better. It's like, I need to lose weight. I'm a fat ass. I wasn't always a fat ass, BC. In fact, I used to be like incredibly athletic. And then that kind of went away as I dealt with depression and I
Oh,
suffered
I
a
was
couple
going to
of
blame it on
injuries.
McDonald's drive-through and what we had a
Well,
conversation
that doesn't
before.
help. That doesn't help anyway. But how do you think you solve depression with a friggin' sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddle? Um, and then like I had a couple of injuries that basically stopped my MMA training journey. And I've just kind of never got back to being like incredibly fit. And
Sure.
it's very tough to now do that when you are older.
Because you
And
can't half-ass it. That's the thing. You just
no,
want to
you
like
you
half-ass it. You
have to
can't.
whole ass it.
You
You
got to go
have to
for
whole
it.
ass it,
Yeah.
and you have to whole ass it every day forever. And
Like
then
Diddy. Yeah.
yeah, well, not your words, your words. And then like if you like I'm running a marathon in February. And so
What?
like I've run one before and I am doing it specifically as like a motivating. If I sign up to do it, I will have to do it. And so I will have to train and I can't half-ass it. I have to be committed to this. And then last week I like fucked up my hip. And so like
You and O'Malley. Damn. All right.
I actually need to get an X-ray because I may have in fact torn a labrum. I hope I did not, knock on wood. But like, it's just I think I've thought about this a lot more as I've gotten older and in context of fighters, and just be like, when I was in my 20s, nothing I was impenetrable. Nothing could hurt me, and so I could go train every day or do whatever I'm doing. And now the slightest setback is like, it hurts too much to go run today, and then I just like instead of running, you could just sit on your couch and read a book or play video games or, hey, there's a sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddle right down the road.
Yep.
And it's just like the mental fortitude to be like, hey, man, your broader ambitions are more significant than that. This might be a little hard right now is very, very tough. And that is something I
And then you wake up
am
at 40 with a
constantly
black
trying to
liver.
work on.
Yeah, I've been there. I've been there. Believe me.
I'm fine with the liver being dead. It's
Yeah,
okay.
it's been dead for years. I appreciate
Yeah.
your honesty in that, and I encourage you to keep fighting the good fight. All right, you'll get there. All right. or you'll
Well,
die.
I probably
Either
won't,
way,
but
you'll
we'll
get there.
try.
Yeah. All right.
We'll make an effort.
Three more. Here we go. 2 years from now, what will combat sports fans be saying about Turki Alalshikh?
3 years from now?
2 years from now. 2 years from
2
now.
years.
The end of
Oh,
26. What will
the
his
the money
reputation be?
the money train will still be rolling at that point, and so everyone will still be, um, where they're at with it. A fun new development in the Turkey thing. I don't know if you saw this clip yesterday of Eddie Hearn getting like indignant that somebody questioned Turkey's involvement in the Saudi Arabian national anthem at the Dubois fight and stuff. It's just like previously there wasn't the indignance. It was just like, hey man, if it's not your cup of tea, that's fine, but we're doing this is great. And now the line has pivoted to Eddie Hearn being like, it's kind of racist of you to question the Saudi
No,
involvement.
not
And that
really.
start is a bit icky. But that feels like the path that this goes, where at first everyone is just going to be glowingly supportive of, hey, even Chris Eubank yesterday in the press conference, he goes in on promoters and saying all boxing promoters are scumbags and they've taken money from me, and Eddie Hearn sucks and Frank Warren sucks and Kali Sounderland sucks. Like all these people suck. Not Turkey. Turkey's a great guy. I love him. He's a man of God. He's the only promoter I know who's not out here trying to take advantage of. Like it used to just be that, where it's a glowing praise of Turkey. I think the next little bit, it will become a little bit more defensive of their involvement in the same way that you saw like the live golfers being like, hey man, I took the money. Somebody's going to pay me more money. I did it. And then it becomes more full throated. Well, don't you dare disrespect the Saudi government for this. And I think in a couple of years we'll still be in the maybe not the honeymoon phase. Maybe we're a little past that, but the money will still be flowing, so people will still be supportive. In 5 to 10 years, it's I don't know what they will say because you don't want to burn bridges that maybe can come back with boatloads of money, but I strongly suspect that the Saudi investment in combat sports will stop within a decade because there's just only so much juice to squeeze out of this
Some think
particular
sooner,
fruit.
some think a lot sooner, some think
It,
some think a year, 2 years. It will be interesting to see. I was going to ask you which journalist that you hope that they get first, but that would be
I mean,
inappropriate.
I hope
So
it's me.
yeah, yeah, well,
I
then you
hope
have to
what
worry about the food troubles. Yeah, yeah, there you
I
go.
will get paid. Like pay me, pay
Okay.
or do you mean Khashoggi get?
I meant
Because if you mean
Khashoggi.
that,
Yeah, that's the kind of
oh no,
humor we do
don't
at the
don't
tail
don't
end of
get
these.
me. I
Yeah.
don't want that.
Uh,
I'm good without that.
if
But
you
if you want
don't
to
get
pay me, I'll take the money.
well, if you don't get Khashoggi, where would you hope to be 5 years from now professionally?
Shout out Mitch Hedberg celebrating the 5 year anniversary of you asking me this question.
Yeah.
uh, shout out Mitch, RIP. In 5 years, that's the thing. Like, back to the mental health thing. I'm really happy with my life
That's good.
and like how it has unfolded. There's certainly some personal things that I would love to accomplish in 5 years. I'd love to have a family and be as successful as you, Brian Campbell, and things like that. But I feel fulfilled and enriched as I am now. And so in 5 years, I hope I don't have a destination. It's not like I hope to be doing the MMA hour in 5 years. I will say that in 5 years, I hope to be as happy as I currently am. And
That's
I
the right way to
suspect
look
that,
at it.
yeah,
Yes.
because that has always been, since I was a kid, my goal has always just been to be happy, which is kind of why I just do stuff and I don't have like a plan. And that's the thing. Like, I don't have direct ambitions or ambitions tied to specific accomplishments. I never have. If you told me in 5 years I was in charge of the new MMA hour or whatever, I'd be like, that's cool. But it's not something I'm not aspiring for something or for a specific title or accomplishment. I aspire to be content in my work and happy in my life. And that's where I currently am. And I'm sure that what that looks like is different 5 years from now than now. I don't know how. But if I could have one wish, outside of happiness for my friends and family, it would be that, I am as happy now as I am or in 5 years, I am as happy as I am now.
You got your head on straight. I mean, you might need a haircut. We can debate that, but that you've got your head on straight, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you taking that seriously. But let's close with this, and you've been great, Jed. Thank you for your time. If you get canceled and/or imprisoned, let's say you get imprisoned, okay, and you're doing solitary for 10 years, but they say you can bring
10
one
years. Jesus.
album with you, one album with you, brother. It may not be your favorite. It just may be one that's gonna sustain you, help you through the mental journey. What's the one desert island album you're bringing with you to the hole?
10 years is so long, BC. Good God. Like, I don't think I'm built hard enough to take a 10 year on the island. I think I'm taking the bedsheet exit if we're
Yeah,
being
oh,
honest.
how dare you?
But if I'm
Epstein.
taking one album,
Yeah. Young Jeezy's first one. There we go. It's a great show. It's
I
great
mean,
talking to
Thug
you.
Motivation 101 is a great album. It won't be the choice. Though I do love that album. I have a sort of reflexive answer that I would always kind of say, like, what's your favorite album of all time? And I'm trying to just make sure, I'm trying to think through some other things just in case I wanted to change it. But I I think I can be comfortable with it. We will go 36 Chambers into the Wu-Tang
Oh,
Clan. Uh,
oh, wow.
for my money, the best piece of music ever made. Um,
It's a hot
it
take. That's a great album.
it's
It's a great
I
album.
mean, maybe not the best piece of music because Mozart and Bach and stuff like there are other things, but that is
Dying Fetus.
uh
Yeah.
love Cannibal Corpse. Guys, shout out to the corpse. But yeah, no, into the Wu-Tang Clan. I think that I'm comfortable enough with that answer.
There it is. 20 in the book. Jen, I
What's
didn't
what's yours, BC?
I have so many, I always have a working top 10 of my favorite albums in music history, but I think for a question like this, you almost have to go with quantity slash diversity. Like one answer would be the White Album by the Beatles because it is so grand and diverse. I would go more something in that direction. That would be a double album that would be known for its weaving in and out of genres.
So it's funny you say that. I did think of, and I didn't know if this counted, but Beatles One, their compilation album of
Yeah,
all
that
their
wouldn't
number
have
one
counted.
hits.
No, we're going
I mean,
original
but that's a
studio
real
album.
album, and
Yeah, it
I own
is.
the
It is.
album.
You can bring the Les Mis soundtrack with you too, whatever you're into. Jed, thank you for your time. I didn't expect to keep you here for this long, but thank you for
I had fun. I didn't
showing
expect,
the
honestly, to have
audience
fun.
a little bit more of you filling the content hole on my personal channel.
I love
They
to
can
fill your holes,
follow,
BC.
yeah, they can follow your great work. I mean, MMA Fighting is a great website, as you often say. They can follow
It's a
you
great
there.
website. They can
Anything,
follow me at
anything else you want to
MMAFighting.com.
plug besides the entire flyweight division?
Oh no, that's you. I'm a strawweight
I'm a
man
115
myself.
guy. Come on, everybody knows it.
No, man, just MMAfighting.com is a great website. We got a bunch of new stuff that's in the works with the changes going on over there. A lot of it's going to be fun. Some of it's you've already seen, some of it's going to be brand new. So keep it locked with us. And obviously, we're still, is now the time, BC, to break that I'm actually taking over the morning combat from you. You're going on an ayahuasca journey out west, and I'm
Yes,
going to be
and I'm
second chair
bringing.
to Luke
Hey,
Thomas.
I've actually have my own show called "Jerking Off with PC" in a van. It's gonna be great. Yeah, it's good.
It's
Yeah,
gonna be great.
yeah, it's
You're gonna
me and
sell
War Machine.
tickets.
It's fantastic. Yeah. All right. Hey, on that note, we're out of here. There it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. How do I turn this off?